Hello, everybody. We are back once again for another receipt chain of the Cafe and Diner archives. I'm your hostess, Madam Hellfire, and today we are going to talk about the CIC receipt chain. I'm going to break these up into two videos. The first 4 receipts will be in this video, and the last 4 receipts will be in the next. First, we're going to start with CIC01, which is written by employee 62, September 5th, 1995, and it says as follows. Got a bizarre hit on the board today. Seems like a patron of ours has had a run-in with an unorthodox customer. Apparently, our patron saw this customer place their order entirely online. Obviously, customers tend to come in to pick up their orders, or at the very least, we go to them. But this sounds like a fully digital affair, which, I suppose, isn't out of the realm of possibility, but it is, well, it is something different. I'll have to keep looking into it, but here's what I know about our new customer. I'm going to guess their title is Mr. for right now, but I might need to bump it up to Mrs. as we get to know them. Doubt this is a miss, but we can't rule anything out at this moment. Based on the board post, the last name is something along the lines of Zulfa, so Mr. Zulfa. Odd name for an odd customer, I suppose. As mentioned earlier, Mr. Zulfa seems to only place orders online. Probably hard to track down, so we might need to send him an evite to the cafe if we want to get a hold of him. All that is currently really known about Zulfa is that wherever he goes, he leaves a particular message either in source code, image data, ciphers, or other means of hiding data. So far, it seems to always ask the same 3 questions. Do you see this? Can you see this? Can you enter hell? As far as I, or our patron, knows, there's no obvious way to respond to him just yet. But I wouldn't be surprised we'll have to answer those questions if we are going to take his order. Also not sure what the difference is between the first 2 questions. Do and can are different, I'm sure, but I can't quite place how yet. Perhaps first we have to see the message, then we have to see the message, if that makes sense. Well, I'll do some digging and probably up our intel security while I'm at it. The last thing we need is Mr. Zulfa getting into our systems, Mr. or not. Interesting. I'm not sure who Zulfa is yet, but I'm hoping that the next receipt will tell us. It is passworded, but I think I know what the answer is for this. It says, venture to guess, we will enter at 3 o'clock, usually, sometimes. I know that the third question in that chain of questions from Mr. Zulfa was, can you enter hell? And I think that is our answer here, so let's find out. Because it says enter something at 3 o'clock. The only thing that had to do with an enter was hell, so yep, I'm right. 62 writes this on September 11th, 1995, and says, troubling news per usual. Our patron who informed me of Zulfa is dead. Dead or missing. Most likely dead. So, ring the wedding bells. She's a Mrs. at the very least. Not sure if she's seeking a divorce yet. Of course, there is always the chance our patron was not visited by Mrs. Zulfa, but then again, this patron is not, or was not, a light tipper. No, he had rather deep pockets. Deep enough I'm sure the Shakers are going to look into this fast. We need to be faster. Secret was acquainted personally with this patron, so we are both going to take a trip to Buckeye, where our patron used to live. I suppose I should also elaborate on what I know so far. I heard about our patron's death disappearance from his next of kin. Apparently, he had been looking into the Zulfa enigma rather deeply before he vanished on the Eth. No blood, minimal struggle. One note left behind, which I'm sure you guessed what it said. Do you see this? Can you see this? Can you enter hell? The note was not written by hand. It looks like it was printed out, which leaves me conflicted. At first, our patron and I assumed Mrs. Zulfa was some sort of digital entity and the printed note goes along with that theory. However, how does a digital entity kill or displace a physical entity? Right now, I'm assuming it's almost like a pseudo-technological entity like Mr. Cold or, like Mr. Cold. Speaking of Mr. Cold, there's the possibility that this is, in fact, Mr. Cold. A bit north for him, but he's been known to travel. Cryptic, repetitive phrases. Technopathic abilities. Or maybe it's the same thing that Mr. Cold is. Which we still don't really know about what or who Mr. Cold is. As far as I know, we've never officially served Mr. Cold. We have files on him, which mostly seem to be borrowed from our friends, but no mentions of him ever having a cup of our coffee. Well, hopefully, Secret and I can find out more about this in person. Oh, so somebody's dead. There's some Nancy Drew stuff afoot, and I'm very interested. So what does CIC03 say? This is 3 days later from another employee, number 17, and it says, nice to be out of the cafe for once. Not to mention, it gives me a chance to ask around for our missing Mr. Gray in a new setting. However, the disappearance of our patron comes first and foremost, for without our patrons, who would we peddle our coffee to? If you aren't fully caught up on our kick affairs, the brief version of it is, Mrs. Zulfa, a new customer possibly, seems to have scared away one of our longtime patrons here in Buckeye. We aren't sure if our patron was merely scared away or scared down south. We hope he was only scared away, but it looks like he packed his bags for an extended trip. Looking around, there's really not much to see in a very literal sense. No traces left behind of our patron or Mrs. Zolfa. We've examined the left behind note, although upon closer inspection, it seems fairly unremarkable. Laser printed size 12 font. The only thing that is off about the scene in general is a few knocked over books and an unplugged computer. Also, there seems to be a faint metallic sheen on a few surfaces, which points towards Mrs. Zolfa placing her order in person and scaring away our patron face to face. As you all expect me to do, I've also been asking around, and it seems we've got friends visiting too. There might not be many mountains here in Buckeye, but it sure seems like we've got a whole mountain range closing in on us. Well, not us specifically. Our patron or what he left behind. Not sure if the pep squad knows we're here too. Probably a good idea to get out of here before they notice us. We've already got the bean team trying to get our goat, and again, in a very literal sense, no reason to kick the hornet's nest as well. We're going to get out of here as soon as we can, and we're going to leave the note where it was found for the Shakers. There is the possibility that this is something we'll just toss over our shoulder anyway. Then again, our patron reached out to us before he ran away, so we better help find him. Café's honor and all that. It's getting worse. It's getting worse. They're not just dealing with a possible high-end cryptid here. They're dealing with a shit ton of people picking up on this, and everything is closing in on them, which really is interesting. It makes things a little bit more intense. Time pressing, if you will. Now we've got C-CIC04. It's passworded and it's a research one. It says regally flying rank and file. No idea, so let's go ahead and take a look. First clue is, what is rank and file used in? More specifically, what board game? So it's chess related. Which bird has this name shared with the chess piece? Binomial name, I have no idea. Corvus frugilegus. I'm just gonna copy paste that because I will not be able to remember that. Submit. Play 17 again, 2 days after the first one. It says, of course, just as we were on our way out, we piece it all together. Not only that, but it would also seem a contact of mine has tracked down Mr. Gray and he's in LA. I can't help but feel torn between these orders. Oh well. It is how he always says, if it was easy, it'd be too late to do anything anyway. 62 will stay here and continue pursuing this mysterious Mr. Zolfa, and I think it'd be best if I'd return to assist with Mr. Gray. Of course, if my suspicions are correct, this is not an order 62 can handle alone. Luckily, we have an associate nearby, well, somewhat nearby, about 4 hours from here, Hamilton. I'm sure you all remember him from our last trip to the hotbed in 93. This isn't exactly his area of expertise, but I'm confident he can handle the situation as well. Of course, his absence from the hotbed area could have unwanted consequences, but if I am right about this, it won't matter if the hotbed gets hotter. We'll all be dead anyway. So, I will head down there and see if Hamilton is up for another round of coffee with the cafe and diner. If not, then we will need to turn this over to Sierra. It's that serious. If everything goes well, I should be back in town around Monday, maybe Tuesday. In transit, I'll write up the new information I have on Mr. Gray, so expect that shortly as well. So we are not getting any information on what Mr. Zolfa is. I am so curious. I want to know. And we'll have to find out in the next video next week. So until then, sweet nightmares. I just wanted to take the time to thank my Patreons and channel members. Your support is so appreciated. If you are not a channel member or Patreon and you would like to become one, there's a link in the description below. All channel members and Patreons receive 24 hours early access to all content posted on both of my channels. And all Patreons or channel members of the $10 Hellhound tier can request one horror-related video or stream topic, or one horror-related game that I play on my live streams on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Again, thank you so much for supporting the channel and the content that I make.